Hey guys, bot lane had some massive changes in 8.11 with the item updates. It's probably going to shift way more as well as we learn like kind of what items to build again. A lot of stuff is different. Today we're going to be looking at who seems to be doing the best and the worst so far. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, like who you would move around and stuff. But this is what the stats say so far from the patch, even though it's pretty early in. Starting with 5 stars. 5 stars to me means pick or ban. You basically have to ban this champion or pick it because it is that strong. Kai'Sa is going to be the only one in this category. Nobody knows what to build right now. So everything has changed. Like all the AD carry items are up in the air really, but she can build anything. It's a little bit ridiculous. Out of the new items, Essence Reaver is nuts on her. Like with her ultimate, she dives in, you're going to get more missiles, more stealth as well at the same time. So that item is really good. But now AD items are a little bit weird. Like everything is different. We're having more AP builds. So Rage Blade, Nash's, and Deathcap, even actually Zhonya's as well, are using the AP scaling your kit has. Apparently the secret to winning the AD carry update and coming out on top of it is to stop building AD carry items. It makes no sense. Honestly, Kai'Sa is just a little bit too strong. Fleet Footwork or Pressy Attack, both are working well at the moment. You can go Crit or AP or Storm Razor or Essence Reaver. Take your pick. All of them are going to do pretty well. A big reason as well is she seems to spike a lot earlier into games at the moment. So like she always has had this monster mid to late game. It's kind of how she's designed, right? But even early right now, she is not that bad. I always do try and put a downside with the good stuff, something that can kind of be taken advantage of so it doesn't just look like she's a really, really good champion. But honestly, I don't know if Kai'Sa has anything that bad about her right now anymore. Like I can't think of any reason not to pick her. Moving into 4 stars, these champions are really good. You can pick them most games and they don't really have too many weaknesses, or you can at least work around them. Lucian is going to be our first champion from like really bad to really good in just one patch, and games are a lot faster right now. I don't know exactly how accurate it is, but low athletic tracks when games end, and a few months ago it was about 55% would end before 30 minutes and it's now up to 65%. Lucian is back to a massive lane bully who can get ahead. He's going to crush after that as well. The new Essence Reaver though is so good for him. It's insane. Literally made for him. He uses ultimate and uses E and Q even more afterwards. You can find the lane phase right. Regen was nerfed. Riot wants you to fight more, and that's exactly what Lucian wants to do anyway. You have lots of build options. You have Crit. You have the Essence Reaver, of course, like Blade of the Ruined King as well is cheaper, and Pressy Attack was buffed a few patches ago, so everything is kind of lining up together. He doesn't scale as well as other choices unless you have some sick mechanics and you can combo like a madman, so that's the only downside. You're going to notice a pattern actually in 4 stars, but Miss Fortune is our next one. Golden Below, I'd honestly say she's probably one of the best AD carries you can play at the moment. Her items weren't really affected. She can use the new crit stuff if she wants to, Essence Reaver even, but lethality is still really good, and we want more lane fights and like early pressure, which is exactly what that does. You can bully early game, you can control the lane phase with your Q poke, your E, your ultimate, your love taps, especially with a strong support champion as well. You have insanely high burst damage, which can keep up with other roles or bully crit champions desperately trying to get items to scale. The only bad side to Miss Fortune is that you're not really an auto-attacking champion, not traditional AD carry, and you're not Kai'Sa. Like you're more setup dependent with her ultimate. That's pretty much it. Draven is very similar, but he does use Storm Razor. It is insane on Draven. You add in a rapid fire cannon and you can long range crit with your axe to the face. He has a lot of options actually. Bloodthirster first is still decent. Infinity Edge can work because of all the AD in there now that was buffed there. You're able to snowball out of control with your passive. Storm Razor is going to help with that even more than before, so you can actually get ahead easier. Obviously, you've got a strong lane phase. You're Draven. You can fight, you can chunk people down, and it's a lot easier than before with the regen nerfs. The bad side is you're immobile. You can get ruined by crowd control, but that's always the problem that Draven has had, I guess. He's an easier target, I guess, than some if he isn't fed, like for assassins. Rounding out our 4-star tier is going to be Ezreal. His items did not get touched at all, so he is still just as good as before this patch, maybe even better. Games are a little bit faster, which is the main thing for him that he really does want. Like items for him are really cheap. He stays ahead of the enemy AD carry, but he doesn't scale as well. Basically, early games just are a lot better for him, right? But he ruins crit champions at the moment. They take even longer to power up now in 8.11, and Ezreal can abuse that a lot more. Double tier is still the build. It's pretty disgusting actually. You can get a Trinity Force. Now crit champions are a bit slower anyway. You can kind of afford to, if that makes sense. You have like really good safety, more poke, more damage though with double tier. As we said, he doesn't scale as well into the game as other choices. If you sit back and you play like quite passively and stuff, you're not really going to end the game game very well. So 3 stars are good, but there are a few more downsides with these guys, whether that's the champion, the build at the moment, or just the game being a bit faster, and they can struggle as well versus the 4 and the 5 stars. So Jin is the first one, and he could be 4 stars. It depends on the player, but Stormrazor is just not as good as it should be on him, and I'm not really sure why. Halo Blades has also got an awful win rate, so a lot of the hype surrounding Jin coming into this patch just didn't turn out how we thought it would. He's still a lane machine, and he can demolish. If he gets ahead in the lane phase, he can take over a game, so that is why you would pick Jin, I guess. And there also aren't as many tanks to block his damage or anything. Jin has a lot more setup than other lane bullies in the 4-star group, which is a really good thing for a team play, but he doesn't have as much damage as them right now. Now, Jinx is the first crit champion we're going to talk about. Crit champs are not doing that well this patch in 8.11. You can play them, you can do well, but if you don't get ahead, the build is so slow. Part of that is going to be just we haven't figured out what to build yet. Like, Stormrazor does really help Jinx actually with her rockets. I think she's probably the best auto-based crit champion for now, partly because of it. You're still able to fight a lot more early as Jinx, and especially her passive is going to make those early fights, like 1 and 2 item fights, a lot easier for you to play. You can though get destroyed by the other lane bullies. Fleet regen nerfs hurt her as well, especially versus the 4-star champions. Getting behind now as a crit champion takes even longer to get back into the game than before, which can be really bad for these weaker lane champs. Now with Xayah, I actually feel like she should be better, but her win rate dropped after the patch, and by a fair amount as well. Essence Reaver does not seem to be as good as it should be. Stormrazor doesn't really help either. Like, it feels like she would have preferred the old items before these changes. On a good player, she can definitely still do well, like 100%, and once she gets a few crit items behind her, she starts to do some serious damage still, so that's really good. Essence Reaver can be an amazing item. It isn't trash or anything, but it does look like it's not that good straight away, and a bit better as you get into the build. Caitlyn is like a staple champion for us as an AD carry, but she's similar to Jinx. Like, Kate as well is not the lane bully that she used to be after we had those nerfs a little while back. That's how it's supposed to be, how Riot wanted it to be, and you can really feel it. You still do have some awesome wave clear. Getting ahead means items faster and a pretty easy game because Caitlyn is really good with items still. The thing is, it's a bit too slow, and it definitely hurts that your 2 item spike is not as strong as it used to be before this patch. If the game was going to go a bit later, if you could reach 4, 5, or 6 items, Kate would be an awesome pick still. She's still a late game monster. One that might surprise you a little bit is Ashe. Essence Reaver is an amazing item on her, so it's not really her build that is the problem, and I do think she's kind of underrated right now. There are so many damage burst champions and assassins around her at the moment after all the buffs Riot have thrown around, and that is what Ashe hates. Her setup with the arrow is great. She has like the range and the poke to do some work in the lane phase as well, so she's not going to get bullied too hard. She does need time to do her damage though. That is the problem. For her Q to like stack up, that is time you don't really have versus like a Lucian or a Draven. So games are just a little bit too fast for Twitch right now. If this was like how awesome are they late game on a scale of 1 to 10, he would probably be an 11. Full build Twitch, I think, would be even stronger than he was last patch, and that's pretty impressive because it is a Twitch. Your team fight is obviously crazy good. Even better, as we said, Blade was made cheaper. You can get to 100% crit easily if you want to, but you have more flexibility with what items you want to buy. The thing is, you have a really rough early game, especially against 4-star champions. They will go to town on you and you will not enjoy it. You have regen nerfs, you have fleet nerfs that make that even harder as well, but getting past that, he is still insane. It's just getting past the lane phase. I just want to point out with Kog'Maw as well, Essence Reaver on him is nuts, and you can have your W active for such a long time in teamfight if you use it properly. With the fleet nerfs though, with regen nerfs, that makes lane phase a bit more difficult, as we kind of talked about already in this video, but his mid game is not that bad. Having your W up longer, having crit builds that make a bit more sense for him, like only having to get 2 crit items to do well, not 3 like last patch, that is all really good for Kog'Maw, but it's just like a rough early game means he can't always get to that point. I actually played Sivir yesterday on stream. It's probably one of the best games I played yesterday. I think she's okay, but she's kind of like Twitch and is taking a little bit too long to get to where she needs to be. At 3+ items, Sivir is still really solid, especially with the new Essence Reaver. Like when you press your ultimate, you basically have your W active permanently, plus your spell shield even more, which is insane for teamfights. I feel like 100% crit with Essence Reaver is an insane build. It is so crazy for Sivir, but you need 4 full items to actually do that, 5 with your boots, and that's not easy to get. Putting Varus this low down in the video hurts me a little bit. You guys know that I pretty much main Varus, but he has some okay build options at the moment. The AP one is probably the best still at the moment. It is faster, it bursts harder as well, it's easier to play because you don't have to auto attack and kite like perfectly. Versus crit champions, he actually does well in the lane phase with his blight trading. Versus like a Lucian though, or a Draven, or even a Jhin, that goes out of the window and he gets demolished. Matchups are the biggest problem for Varus right now after this W change, which turned out to be a nerf. He bullies weaker laners, but he doesn't bully stronger ones. We're getting towards the end of 3 stars at the moment, but Tristana with 100% crit has a potential to be nuts in 8.11, but I think you guys know I'm going to say that it just takes a little bit too long. Stormrazor is okay, but it's not the best, and it's not helping her enough to get an early lead in the game. She's so mobile though, like you can carry hard late game if you get there. She has the potential to get a lot of kills early into the game, but the thing is you can't just rush Infinity Edge anymore and abuse the AD to get a few kills, which hurts her getting to 3 items straight away. So we're going to go into 2 stars, and these ones are you kind of just making your life a little bit more difficult by playing them. You can play them, you can win. If you want to, that's fine, but it is going to be more difficult. Vayne is the first one, and I know some Vayne mains will be sad. I'm sad as well, but in 8.11, Vayne just doesn't even get to a 50% win rate until 35 minutes into the game. She is way too weak early game in her current state, it seems like, and she just can't get past that. Late game, she is still really good as a Vayne, you would expect anyway, and Blade the Rune King was made cheaper, so that can be a solid first item. They made sustain weaker, like fleet and stuff, so weak laners are even weaker, but they also buffed the strong ones at the same time. That's a pretty rough combo. We've only got 1 champion in the 1-star tier, and this is kind of like a why bother for solo queue. Like, this is really making her life a lot more difficult. This is a video for solo queue, remember? So Callista for high elo players, like, could be a lot higher, maybe even up to 4 stars at the moment. She runs double lifesteal, which is 400 gold cheaper this patch, and games are a lot faster, which is great. The thing is, for solo queue, she is supposed to be a lane bully, but after having all those nerfs and stuff, like, she can't do that as well anymore, and definitely doesn't scale into the game either. So there isn't really a reason to pick her unless you are really good with her, if you're in a duo or you're high elo. So that is what the stats look like so far in 8.11. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you would have changed, who you would have moved around, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.